Let's briefly recap what we've done. We have discovered that APIs that we use will return text elements to, or just plain text to a web browser. A web browser, however, is made up of tags normally, which instruct the browser how to display the data. We're not using those tags at the present time. We're only interested in the plain text. What we have returned, here's our text file. What we've returned is data in a particular format. Notice how it's got results, address components, long name, and finally some data. And this is a JSON format, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which is best used in JavaScript, but we're going to play with it in Python. There are lots of different kinds of formats that can be returned that we can play with. So let's take a look at APIs. There's a lot of APIs available for you to play with. I've shown you one. We've just played with the Google Maps API. So that's our first API that we've sort of played with. When I say lots, I'm going to take you to a place called Programmable Web. And this is a very, very useful place to go if you want to do API programming. This has got 17,447 APIs and growing daily for you to play with. A lot of them are okay, some of them do some useful things, some of them don't, but that's one place to go. Another place to get APIs from is Google. So we can go to Google developers, and if we type in API, we can get to the Google Developers API section, the API console. We can sign in and get to their APIs. Now, a little word about signing. This is just a basic Google sign in. There's nothing sinister about this. The majority of APIs that you get from Programmable Web or from Google or anywhere else, some of them will be free to use entirely, rather like this API that I used, the geocode API, that was free to use. Some of them you will need to have a username or an ID and a password to be able to use them. Again, that's not necessarily sinister. What it's doing is just collecting statistics and probably limiting the amount of times you can actually use their API. Maybe you're allowed something like 3,000 hits on the API a day. So if you produced a program for somebody else to use, or lots of people to use, if 3,000 people have got your program, then they can each have one hit per day, and that's the end of your account for that day. Or you can pay a little bit of money, which I will never ever ask you to do, and you can get a paid for account, which will probably give you unlimited hits and allow you to develop apps not just in Python but in probably Android or Xcode for the iPhone, and release on the Google Store or the Apple Store your program for other people to use. That's a paid account. I'm going to be interested in the free and the ones that just require you to have a user ID and a password for free access with limitations. Another place that we can get APIs from, and API, what I'm really talking about here is data. The government, so most governments now have sort of freedom of data. They've got to publish their data and their statistics, and they do it this way, and there's lots of information that we can find. And for us in the UK, if we go to gov.uk and data and APIs, I'm sure we'll get to all of their APIs. So taking a look here, just quickly, we can look at the transport APIs or the health APIs. We can actually use these APIs online. That's fine. It's not really what we want to do. We want to actually produce what they're producing here, but go ahead and play with it. Sort of missing the main APIs here. But there's a lot of interesting data that we can actually play around with. Let's just take education. And what happens, and this is what I really wanted, we can have different kinds of data returned to us. At the moment, we've played with JSON, J-S-O-N, and I can't see any JSON down here. But on the side here, it's giving you the different kinds of information that can be returned. So on this one, we've got a comma-separated variable. That's one kind of information. HTML, that's a web page. PDF, that's a straightforward document. There's very few that we're actually going to play with. XLS, that's a spreadsheet. But we can sort of link on these or click on these and get any sort of data that we want in any sort of format. But we can only in Python deal with a couple. Let's see if I can find something else. Crime and justice. Yeah, there we go. We've got JSON format here. Another national information infrastructure format here. Several different formats that we can play around with. The ones we will be interested in are JSON, CSV, and another one called XML. And I can't see any XML there. I was hoping to find something. Let's see if I can quickly find something on that one. Transport. We've got quite a lot of different kinds. Here we go, XML. So if I go to the planned works, here we go, we've got XML. If I just click on one of these links, I'll show you what happens sort of in the browser. There we go. We get data in the browser, but it's in XML format, and it works it out for you. You can't download this file, or you're not supposed to be able to download this file. There we go. That's what XML looks like. It's all like HTML in angle brackets, and the data appears between a start bracket and an end bracket. And if you were trying to write a database or play around with a database, pulling information out of this is not very easy. It's not very easy, or the structure isn't very easy to play around with. There are methods that we will use in Python to access it, but mainly we'll be playing with JSON. But if you did want this, this is really where you need to right click, choose save as, and then save your work wherever you want it to be saved. So if I take it to our API programming, into Python, and click save, I've now got hopefully a copy of that data. So let's go back here and see if we can open it. There we go. And XML, you can open it in a spreadsheet. I do not suggest you open it in Google Sheets. Chances are Google Sheets will just hang there is so much information. Excel is probably a good one to open it up in. There we go. There's the data. Notice it's all on one long line. So if I go to the right, we'll see the data. So the whole file is on one long line. So that's a little bit about the different types of data, where to get them from. I shall be discussing different places that you can get data from in APIs as we go along.